Please welcome Marc Groman, Principal of Gorman Consulting and former Senior Advisor for Privacy for the White House, for Tracking My Location, Business Uses, and Consumer Choices.
Good morning. It is wonderful to be here for Privacy Day and to discuss trust and the responsible use of data in the online world today. Privacy is not new, and there are many ways that we can discuss privacy or think about it. We can think about what is happening inside of our home, or maybe the privacy for our children in their school. We can think about the information that we voluntarily provide to our health providers, or maybe changing in a dressing room at a retail store. And of course, we often talk about the content of our communications. What is in the letters we send, the emails and texts we write, and the calls we make? All of those are part of the privacy discussion. Different people have different levels of concern and different risk tolerance and a willingness to share different amounts of data. Everyone's view on that is valid. There's no right or wrong. However, one thing we do know is that in this information age, more and more data is being collected about us by more and more organizations and entities, and in ways that perhaps we don't fully understand. Now, different kinds of data collection and use come with different risks, and I like to think about and focus on those practices, the data processing, that will in fact create the most risk. After all, I'm a tech junkie. I own a shocking number of devices, laptops, wearables, personal assistants in my home. And yes, shockingly, I'm all over social media. I love it. I like to share. So what concerns me, and what are those kinds of data that can pose the most risk as we think about the future? And I want to focus on one area that has really received a tremendous amount of attention just in the last few months. And that is the collection and use of precise location information. Now, what's different about this is that it's not the content of my communication that I'm talking about now, but where was I when I made the text or placed the phone call? It's not content. However, my precise location over time tells an incredibly rich story about who I am, what I do, and what I believe. And it's not just about my location now, that is that Mark is at LinkedIn in San Francisco now. It is the history of my location. It is everywhere I have been for the past 6 months. Where did I go? Where have I been over time, not just right now? It is, in fact, an issue that is truly pervasive that we need to grapple with as a society. My location over time tells about my beliefs. You can infer my hobbies, who I see, and what I do. The analytics that go with it are extraordinary. Think about it this way. It's not just the places that you go, it is the sequence of the places you go, in what order. And did you deviate from that sequence and why? It is how long were you in a certain location. It's what event were you attending. We can map time and know that if you were at a stadium, were you at a sporting event, a political convention, or a religious rally of some kind. When we map and examine the information of millions of people, as happens today, we know who you are with because we can see, organizations can see, what other individuals were in the same location at the same time. And we can identify the most significant locations for you, your home and your workplace. These are all features today. And so understanding how location information is collected, by whom, and how it is used is incredibly important today. And I'm going to lay out one set of facts, but I have 3 messages for 3 groups that I know are here and hopefully listening. One is for the business community. It is on you to be responsible, to be respectful of your consumers, to be open, honest, transparent, and to make thoughtful decisions about when you collect location, how you share it, and when you use it. Consumers, you must take the time to understand when is your location information being shared and to make your own decisions. And any decision is valid as long as you're informed. If you choose to share everything, that's great. If you're more privacy sensitive, that is equally valid. And to our policymakers, you must engage on this issue. And you must engage in a comprehensive way, in a technology neutral way, and understand the full scope of collection of location information today. Because it's everywhere, and we're going to need a comprehensive and thoughtful approach. When we talk about location, I want to talk about the ways it's collected, through what devices, the technology, and then who is collecting and using it. And it's important, and I don't want to focus too much on the technology. But what is collecting information about your location? Everyone will raise their hand and say, it's my smartphone. So that's easy. Actually, no, that's not easy, because your smartphone is multiple different applications and services in one. And so your location is being transmitted to multiple entities. But let's look beyond the smartphone. It's also today, my laptop, my MacBook, and my tablet are also transmitting my location to a number of organizations. And then there are my wearables. My smartwatch, health devices, Fitbits are all also collecting and transmitting location. How about my son's portable game console? Yes, collecting location. Robots, smart toys? Yes. Importantly, and one that is absolutely critical to view going forward, is our cars. Our automobiles are and will be tracking your location everywhere your car goes. And it is not just one person or entity. Your car is multiple applications, multiple systems and software tracking your location and sending that information. So that's our ecosystem. My smartphone, laptop, tablet, wearables, Fitbit, smartwatch, car, and toys, and my son's game console are collecting location information. Precise location information that can be stored over time on your device, in the cloud, or at the company. How is it done? So let's take a moment, without getting too technical, to discuss the technology, because it matters. Because we're talking about the continuous collection of location information that is increasingly precise and highly accurate. How is it done? Well, I think we all know about GPS or satellites and the use of that information by our smartphones and other devices to track where we're going. And then, of course, there's cell phone triangulation, and there's crowdsourcing of Wi-Fi networks, and then there's Bluetooth. Also, we have the use of your IP address from your phone to assume or infer a general location. Of course, there's self-reporting, which people don't think about. But when you respond to a survey online or provide your information or self-report, that's another mechanism. We have all these different ways that lead to different levels of granularity or accuracy in data collection. It ranges from miles and miles to knowing what city you're in, down to just a few meters, which is the room I am in right now, and increasingly down to a few centimeters with highly accurate, very professional GPS, the kind we'll need in cars. So imagine that, tracking you throughout the day and the course of your life within a few meters of where you are. Now, why did I discuss the technology? Because it's not just about the accuracy, but it's about how your privacy settings work. What are you being told on your devices? And that concerns me because there are too many stories where consumers believed that by using a setting, they were stopping the transmission of location from their device, and in fact, they were not. Or not understanding just how accurate information is. Because I mentioned GPS, Wi-Fi, IP address, Bluetooth, and cell phone triangulation. Now they work together. And so if you're in a location where perhaps satellites aren't as effective because you're undercover, the other technologies jump in. We also have other sensors on your devices, right? And so it's not just about where you are and the accuracy of your location, but because of the other sensors, we know your activity. We know where you are, and we know if you're walking. Are you cycling? Are you driving? And at what speed? What height are you in? If you are in a building, what floor are you likely on? Does that matter? Well, if you're in a hospital, maybe. There are too many stories, and some recently, where consumers actually affirmatively used a privacy setting to stop location, and yet location was still being collected. One story from last year, and I'll use it because, as the story goes, there was no harm, but Google was collecting information from Android devices using cell phone triangulation or cell phone signals, even when consumers had selected do not collect my location and the location was not being collected by GPS. And there was a story last year about a weather app. Similarly, even when a consumer made a choice and said do not collect my location and they stopped collecting through GPS, the weather app continued to collect, process, and share your precise location over time, notwithstanding using a privacy setting. And almost all companies continue to identify your general location through IP address, even if you've asked them not to track location and they do not track it through Wi-Fi or GPS or through cell phone triangulation. Which raises issues about what does it mean to be precise. When a consumer or a company rather says, go here to opt out about our collection of your precise location. What does that mean? It's not defined. Are they saying it's within 10 feet, 100 feet, 1,000 feet? What does it mean to opt out of precise location on all of these devices? So we've talked about the technologies, we've talked about the devices where collection takes place, who is collecting this information, and how is it being used. If you think it's complicated already, we ain't seen nothing yet. Who? Well, obviously, we have the mobile phone operating systems. We know that Google is collecting data on Android, Apple on iOS, and through Windows 10, Microsoft can be collecting precise location information. Device manufacturers can be collecting precise location information. Of course, the cell phone carriers, Verizon, AT&T, Sprint, and the like, are collecting and storing your precise location information over time when you use and place calls. Who else? The mobile applications on your phone. Now, that could be dozens. It could be 50 mobile applications. When those mobile applications collect your precise location information over time, you are subject to their privacy policy. That's what governs that collection of information over time. Not Apple's, not Google's, that app's, which means that app is likely then sharing your precise location information over time with countless other third parties. This is the world we're in today, and some of that is about advertising. Now, I don't want to criticize advertising too much. I actually really like it. In fact, I've been known to say I don't even mind targeted advertising and interest-based advertising in most cases. If I'm in the market for a car, I like car ads. However, my precise location information over time is incredibly sensitive. It can be used in ways that are unpredictable. So, for example, in a story last year, one advertising company did geofencing around 150 abortion clinics in 5 US cities. And when someone approached an abortion clinic within a certain radius, they received advertisements. Now, it doesn't matter which side of the debate you're on. That's not the point. In my opinion, that is a violation of privacy. But it's legal. No laws restrict that in the United States. It is completely legal. Now, that's the commercial sector, the commercial side. Advertisers, apps, applications, your cell phone company, the operating system, the device manufacturer, other entities, and websites, of course, right? On your mobile phone, if your browser allows for information to be collected and shared, it also goes to websites. So that's a lot of entities collecting a lot of information in the commercial sector. And those are the companies that we, let's say, are the good guys and the trusted entities. But there's also a security problem. There were too many breaches in recent memory to even start recounting, where databases, large databases of precise location information over time, were hacked and compromised, where unintended parties obtained information about everywhere your car has been or every place your cell phone has been. If you are going to collect this kind of information, you must secure it. It is too sensitive to risk that data being hacked. I can change my password, I can change my email address. I am not changing my address, my home address, or probably all of my patterns of everywhere I go. It is too sensitive. And then, importantly, there's the government. And I haven't mentioned that yet, but if this issue is front and center today in the United States and around the world. When companies collect data about you, about your precise location over time, everywhere you go, that means the government can get it. That means the FBI, local police, can issue a subpoena or a warrant to obtain information about everywhere you have been over time. And that is not an exaggeration. This issue is before the United States Supreme Court right now. We're all familiar with basic concepts of the Constitution and due process and search and seizure. And we know the government can't walk into your home and just take your documents or your computer. And yet, warrant requirements and due process don't necessarily apply to the collection by the government of your location information over time. These laws that do exist today, really were created when we were using black rotary phones that were tied to the wall and weren't going anywhere. And certainly the founders and drafters of the Constitution did not contemplate this kinds of technology. But the government is taking the position that they do not need a warrant to go to a cell phone company and ask them for every place you've been over the last year. Because the government says it's not the content of your communication, it's metadata. Well, that's BS, and let's hope that the Supreme Court of the United States agrees that that is not a sound argument in this day and age. We must have modern laws that can address these issues, and the Supreme Court must adapt the Constitution to these technologies so that the United States government does need a search warrant if they're going to go to a company and find out every place you have been over the last 6 months. I do not want a regime like China or North Korea, where this technology is used as a mass surveillance system over the people. That is not how we operate in democracy. It's not what our Constitution is for. But it surprises people that this is not settled in the United States, that the rules around when the federal government can access your precise location information is unclear. The government even attached GPS locators to cars and argued there was no violation of privacy because your car is in the public and they could theoretically track you. Fortunately, in that case, the Supreme Court said, wrong. We do have a privacy interest in where our car goes, and if you are going to put technology on my automobile with GPS, then you need the warrant. So we've talked about the who, we've talked about the private sector and the many entities, we've talked about the government, and we've talked about the hackers who can all access this information. It is a challenging issue. Our laws in this country don't govern all of this, and that shocks people. There aren't federal laws that limit, in many cases, how a company can collect and use your precise location information. Now, some people will say, Mark, you're overreacting, you're paranoid. I have nothing to hide. Why do I care? I don't think that's the point. Here we go into a world where hundreds of millions of people will have their entire life tracked within a few meters. It's just not the world I had envisioned. Now, for many people, you may embrace it because of the benefits of technology, and that's great. But for others, we need to have a choice. Which draws me back to my point about the three audiences I was speaking to today. Consumers, all of you, take the time to understand your privacy settings, your smartphone, and the permissions that you are giving to applications. The business community, it is on you. We know you know how to build a great user interface when you want to. We know that you know how to write disclosures and share information and influence decision-making. In this area of my location, it is on you to use best practices, to be honest and candid and clear with your consumers, and to allow us to make informed choices. We need business to step up even when there aren't laws. Which leads me to policymakers. I don't know that I have faith that the policymakers will get this right, but we need a cohesive examination whether my precise location is being collected through my phone, my automobile, or my son's portable game console. We need rules of the road that are thoughtful, intelligent, respectful of the individual, while allowing for innovation to flourish and for products to reach the marketplace. So I hope that we'll think about precise location information, and I thank you very much for your attention today.